Hey, what's up YouTube? In this video, I'm gonna change out my C7 Corvette serpentine belt tensioner. I've been getting some squealing noises from underneath the hood area, and after examining the belt, I noticed that I'm getting some fluid leaking from the serpentine belt tensioner. The little shock absorber leaks fluid, and that means that the tensioner needs to be replaced. So I want you to stay tuned to this video. I'm going to show you how I change out the serpentine belt tensioner on a C7 Corvette. So let's get started. The parts that I will be using in this video, I picked up straight from General Motors. I'm using the serpentine belt, part number 12651112. It's an original belt. And the serpentine belt tensioner. So we're going to get this opened up. Let me show you what we're going to put on the vehicle. The C7 Corvette has a history of this little shock absorber failing, and once this thing fails, it leaks fluid around the outside. So when I examine underneath the hood of my C7 Corvette, I noticed that I do have an oily residue on the shock absorber on my belt tensioner. So we're going to change this thing out. It basically has two bolts, one at the top, one at the bottom. We have a 15mm bolt on the top and a 13mm bolt on the bottom. We got to move some things out the way, and we're going to get this part installed, and hopefully this will take care of the squealing sound that I'm getting. My C7 Corvette is under warranty. I could take it to the dealership and let them change this out, but I didn't want my vehicle being tied up for 2 weeks sitting at a dealership. So I decided to tackle this job myself. And if this doesn't fix my problem, then I'll take it into the dealership and let them fix this thing under warranty and see what's going on with the squealing. Let's prepare to get this thing installed. So I need to remove the air filter cover, the breather housing. I need to get this stuff removed out of my way so I can access the serpentine belt tension pulley. So I want to speed up the process with my drill. I'm going to use my drill to take out some of those bolts around the front. That will be 4. Now I can remove this front cover. I'm going to put on my gloves to keep my hands free of dirt. Want to press in on the tab to remove this hose. Spin that out the way. Press in on this other tab. Spin that out the way. I'm going to take a flat screwdriver, release the clamp, and I have another clamp here on the front. Slide that out. All right, take that loose. So as you can see, we have the 15mm bolt here on the top, and we have a 13mm bolt on the bottom. I'm going to use my long braking bar to take the tension off of the belt, and then I can slip off the serpentine belt. So now I can take the braking bar with my 15mm socket and attach it to the front of the pulley. I can pull down and it should take the pressure off of the pulley. And now I can remove the serpentine belt. Now I can remove my braking bar. Okay, and that belt is free. Now I have the belt, and it looks like the belt is about time to be replaced. Set that to the side. So I have a 13mm bolt on the bottom and that 15mm bolt on the top. And I'm gonna try to take this thing off without having to go underneath the vehicle. I'm gonna try to see if I can get it from top side. Looks pretty difficult from the top side, so we may have to go bottom side. Not a lot of room to work. Underneath the bottom, we have that 13mm bolt. And this wrench here is a lifesaver. I'm just going to keep turning it until I back that bolt out.
I mean, it's so tight in there, you can't even get your hand underneath. So we do have the bolt loose, and we can try to take this off from the top side. I'm going to use my 3/8 drive with a 15mm on the braking bar. Let's get this loose. There we go. Oh yeah. Now I can take my ratchet there we go. And I'm hoping that this take care of my problem. My Corvette is under warranty, but that noise could be actually coming from the alternator pulley. It could be coming from the bearings and the power steering pump. It could be coming from the water pump. It could be coming from the air condition. So I'm hoping that since the C7 Corvette has a history of this belt tensioner going out, I'm hoping that this fixed my problem. Top bolt out. And we got that one 13mm bolt that's on the bottom. And it's so tight in there. I mean, there's absolutely no room to work. I barely could reach it. I mean, just there we go. Now I can pull this back up from top side. So now that I have that bolt free, I can pull this up from top side. So I'm gonna reach in, kind of turn. And we have the serpentine belt tensioner pulley free. It's got a lot of oil around this gasket here. So I'm hoping that this is my problem with that squealing. When this thing wears out, the pulley will start squealing and making a lot of noise. So we can take out this 13mm bolt and we can get ready to put in the new part. So from top side, we're gonna take the new pulley and I'm gonna start off on the top. I'm gonna put in my 15mm bolt. And just to get this thing into position, I'm gonna go in at an angle and turn. So I'm gonna go in at an angle and then turn. The bottom bolt is gonna be the toughest bolt. Top bolt is no problem at all. I'm gonna work on this bottom. So it would have probably been better if I put my car on my jack stands, on my ramps. But since it's So cold out. Try to do this without having to put the car on the ramps. So I gotta tilt this thing, kind of push this bolt back so I can get it into position. Now I have to turn this bolt. Very little room to work. So now that I have the bolt started, I can take my hydrostatic wrench and tighten this thing down. It would have probably been a little bit better if I would have put the vehicle up on my ramps, but since it's so cold outside, I'm trying to work around it. So it looks like we're getting this thing on. And I'm not going to tighten it down all of the way. I'm going to tighten down the top bolt first, and then I'll come back to the bottom bolt. It's a lot of play. Why is that? Why did it do that? That's too much slack on that bolt. So I got the bottom bolt on, but I noticed that this thing's got a lot of play between the bolt and the assembly. So I'm going to take these washers. I'm going to put one on each side of the assembly. So this is not OEM, but this should take care of that slack. So I put a couple of washers on the front of the bolt just to take out that slack. Slide that into the pulley. And I put a couple of these washers on the front of this thing just to take out that extra slack. I can always take one out and add a crush washer if necessary, but I think this will be good. So now that took out all of that slack that was between the bolt and the assembly. Okay, now that I have the bottom bolt on, I can work on the top bolt. Just gonna tighten this thing by hand as far as I could get it. Now I can take my ratchet, tighten down the top bolt. It's nice and tight. And now it's ready to put the belt back around the pulleys, and then we can get this thing buttoned up. So now I can take this new belt, so we're going to go around the alternator. So we got to get this to come back up. Just before I do that, I'm gonna put the bottom on first. That would make it easier. Around this big pulley here on the front. Okay, so now we're in position. Next, I could take my braking bar and get it ready, put it around the pulley, and I'm gonna give it slack, and then I can wrap this thing around the alternator. So I'm gonna come back on the top side, grab my belt, and now I'm gonna push and take all of this slack. I need a little bit more slack. So I'm gonna go reposition. And I'm gonna push that belt tensioner all the way down until it stops. Now I can reach up, try to get this belt around the alternator. Reposition, take my strong hand. I can go around the alternator, make sure my belt is lined up, and then I can take the slack out of the belt tensioner pulley. So the belt looks good, everything is lined up. Everything looks good, the belt is lined up perfectly. Everything is tight. All I have to do now is put back the air intake hose. Nice and tight. Snap that on, snap that on, tighten down my hose clamps, tighten down my second hose clamp, snap back my hoses, snap those back down. Squeeze those clamps. Make sure everything is nice and tight. Next, we can put back the air intake housing. Tighten those back in. Have one more bolt here on the front. So I have the serpentine belt tension pulley installed. I put back all of my duct work for the air intake. The only thing I had to do was add a couple of washers to the bottom of the tensioner pulley to take out a little bit of slack. I tighten the bolts back down to manufacturer's torque specifications. And now all I have to do is crank the vehicle up and see if that takes care of my squealing sound. And then I can take the C7 Corvette out for a test ride. So I'm gonna hop in and crank this thing up and see if that actually takes care of my squealing sound that I've been hearing. So I'm gonna jump inside and we're gonna crank this thing up and see how it sounds. And hopefully that this takes care of the sound that I've been hearing. So I'm gonna crank this thing up and here we go. Oh yeah, I can't hear the squealing anymore. I don't hear that squealing sound. So I do believe that took care of my problem. I'm not hearing that squeal sound anymore. So replacing the serpentine belt tensioner, I believe, has taken care of the problem. But I'll take it out for a test ride and I'll let you guys know how everything turns out in the end. So I hope this video helps some of you out that have the C7 Corvette. I'm gonna take it out for a test ride and just verify that everything is nice and tight. So anyway, let me know what you think. Drop a comment down in the comment section below. If you like this video, click the like button. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And I'll see you a little bit later out here in the Caliente garage.